Alrighty, I think we got everything going now. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Gotta have the mic closer. There we go. Come on. There we go. And just to see, because this is the first time I'm doing this here, is it working? Is the sound working? There we go. Yes, it is. Fuck yeah. There we go. Now we got it all working. My God, that was a nightmare. Okay. So, let's get it started. I mean, obviously, we've got the new setup. Oh my God, I can't move my arm out too far, I guess. There's gonna be more next week with, I'm gonna have a PowerPoint to show the bets. Didn't have all that ready this week. I mean, I didn't even have everything ready today, clearly. I even just put this desk in just now. So, not quite ready with all the things I'm planning, but we're gonna keep going anyway because the show must go on. So we'll open up UFC Vegas 84. We'll just open up right away with that. And again, I'll have the PowerPoints ready. I'll have everything ready to show next week. Didn't quite have the time to do that. I'm sure I'll say that a couple of times as the people start hopefully coming in. So, card opens up with Joshua Van and Felipe, I believe, Bunes. Where's the card here? Where's the card? Yes, Felipe Bunes, Joshua Van. I'm actually completely out of it now. Oh my God. Because I haven't done this for a month, I'm all out of it. My goodness. What do I usually do here? I can't even fucking remember at this point. Okay, oh yeah, right. So Felipe Bunes making his, I believe it's his UFC debut. Right? Correct? Yes. He was supposed to fight Jalgas actually a couple of months ago. That fell through. Joshua Van actually did fight Jalgas last year. Wasn't too impressed with what I saw for Felipe Bunes. Wasn't too impressed the first time I did the research for him when he was going against Jalgas. I actually thought Jalgas was going to have a pretty good chance at winning that one. Fairly old. What's he at now? 34. Joshua Van, I mean, literally just starting out now. I mean, he's what, 22, I believe he was? Yeah. Joshua Van, only 22 years old right now. And I mean, I don't know. I wasn't really impressed when I saw him go against Jalgas. I thought he kind of lost that one, but I mean, that's the story of Jalgas's UFC journey, really. But then when I saw him against Kevin Borjas, you know, a lot of people were pretty high on. I think, honestly, even still pretty high on him. I was actually still pretty impressed watching the tape yesterday. And I mean, yeah, Joshua Van just won that fight. I mean, I don't think there's really much of a question. He should be able to win this. I don't know. I'm not going to say fairly easily, but he will be one of the people in my parlays here. Yeah, very good. Very good. Very good striker. Very good all around. And Bunes kind of more so, I believe he was more so a striker. Yeah, more so a striker, but he was kind of still getting hit quite a bit. I don't know. I just wasn't really all that impressed. And again, he's 34, Joshua Van 22. I think just all around, this is Joshua Van all the way. Especially since he's been improving so much. I mean, by the time I went from doing the research for him fighting Jalgas to then him beating Jalgas and Kevin Borjas, I mean, he's just gotten so much better. So I think he's going to just keep that going. And I don't know. Felipe Bunes just wasn't anything special. And I mean, you look at the records too. I mean, he had 3 losses in a row. Bunes had 3 losses in a row. Then had a win in ACA. Then lost to Jussier Formiga, who he was definitely in the UFC. which is this, he got submitted by him, so there's that. Split decision win in LFA, then got a knockout in LFA, but the guy he knocked out, kind of was there to be knocked out. So, I just don't really see a way for him to win. I'm just seeing all Joshua Van on this, to be honest. So that's what I've done here. I'm definitely going in that direction. Their fights have been going longer. I did say Formiga did submit him. Joshua Van, I don't know if he can get to that same submission level threat as Formiga was. So I'm seeing probably more so a decision, but I could definitely see a knockout come into play. You never know. I mean, again, he's 12 years younger, Joshua Van, so you never know what can happen with these. Somebody who could last longer 5 years ago might not be able to last that long against somebody who's 22 now. You never know with these kind of things. So to balance that out, I will be taking Van by decision, probably. That's what I'm thinking, to lower those odds down, because he is a significant favorite, and then balancing that out with the under 2.5. But that, of course, all depends on the odds as well, which I'm assuming are not ready yet, and they are not. I just checked. So moving on to matchup number 2. And he, like I said, I'm pretty confident in Joshua Van. He will be fairly high up in the parlays. Moving on. Tom Nolan making his debut against Nicholas Mota. We've seen Nicholas Mota before. We've seen him get knocked out before. A couple of times pretty early. Knocked out in the first round against Manuel Torres. Honestly, might have been one of my knockout of the year. I mean, it was definitely top 5 knockout of the year. It was the elbow from Torres. Just put Nicholas Mota out cold. One of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen. So he was on the wrong side of that last year. Then he had that no contest, the premature stoppage against Trey Ogden there, where Trey Ogden was really actually about to win. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then, of course, the ref error there ends up being a no contest. Absolutely ridiculous. So, and then before that, I mean, he did knock out Cameron Van Camp, but Cameron Van Camp, if you watched it, always had his hands low and was just walking in. I mean, you can't, I don't care who you're going against. If you're in the UFC, that's probably not a good strategy, even if it's Nicholas Mota, who hasn't had the best history with that kind of thing either. And then before that is where he made his debut. That was against Jim Miller, got knocked out there as well. So, I mean, 2 fairly brutal knockouts, and now he's going against Tom Nolan, who is a knockout artist and who had a absolutely lethal knockout against Bogdan Grad to get his contract on the Contender Series, and has had 4 knockout wins in a row. And he's also bigger than Mota in every single way. He's bigger, he's taller, just a much cleaner, much better striker. I don't really think Mota has much of a chance. He would have been my my sniper pick for the week, but I've made that mistake before, and I refuse to make that again. I will not make sniper picks out of people making their debut, because you just never know. You never know of the quality that's on the Contender Series that they got, that they were fighting to make it there. You never know. And then, I mean, we know how good Jim Miller is. That's another guy who's fighting today. So, it's hard to tell how that's going to translate to somebody making their debut with Tom Nolan. So I refuse to do sniper picks with somebody that new, but definitely also very high up in the parlays this week is Tom Nolan for sure. Especially given the matchup, given that Mota's been knocked out twice now already in his 4 fights in the UFC. Yeah. So for the bets, I'll be going Nolan finish. I might even switch that actually to Nolan KO. I think I'll just pencil that in right now. Nolan KO. And then I'm thinking of going in the under 1.5 direction. But, you know, if you're trying to really balance it out, it would kind of make sense to, I guess, go over 1.5. Because then, you know, if he gets the first round KO, you get the money. If you go over 1.5, you get the money. Of course, I guess, again, always depends on where the odds are at. So I guess we'll see. We'll see on that one. And that's actually another thing that this is the last time I'll be doing, probably anyway, the last time that I'll be giving out these kinds of bets. I have different plans for when I have the PowerPoint ready. It's just kind of, you can't really, I don't know, I can't really do it without having the bets there so you can actually visually see what I'm talking about. So this is kind of the last time we're doing bets like this, but yeah. Anyway, oh yeah, so moving on. Another fairly one-sided one, at least in terms of the odds. Oh yeah, I should really be giving the odds here, of course. I mean, what are we doing here? Again, this is the first week back. I'm completely out of it already. Joshua Van was minus 225, so that's why I was saying we need to lower those odds a little bit. But that's good for parlays. Minus 225 is actually not bad for parlays at all. And then, Tom, Nolan. Where's Nolan on this? Oh, there we are. Minus 334. So again, you know, same thing. We needed to lower those odds down. That's what we're doing. So now we move on, and I believe this might be the biggest favorite of the night. It is. Minus 800 for Jean Silva, or I think it's Jean, might be Jean, but Brazilian, so I'm guessing Jean, against Weston Wilson. I think that's a little bit ridiculous to give those kinds of odds. You know, Weston Wilson, okay, he's 34, 16-8, not a great record. But on the other side, I mean, well, actually, I only say I don't know if those odds are quite right. I mean, I would definitely bring them a lot lower down for sure, without a doubt. Because he's only had one UFC fight, and yes, he was knocked out in 3 minutes, but it was against Joe Anderson Brito, who we know is a madman. He's a knockout threat, to say. Actually, he is really just a finishing threat all the way around. So I mean, that was his one matchup. So, you know, I mean, you know, are we going to give somebody, what is it, like a plus 500, plus 600 betting line just because he got knocked out by Joe Anderson Brito? I mean, that's kind of absurd. And I mean, before that was doing really well. Lots of finishes. Not against necessarily the highest competition, but doing pretty well. Then on the other side, it's Jean Silva. You know, he's 27, was fighting at lightweight earlier too, apparently. That's what I'm seeing here on the Tapology, of course. And then, of course, got his contract on the Contender Series. Did beat somebody that was 11-0, and I think that's kind of where the odds are coming into play, where it's like, okay, beat somebody who's 11-0. You know, other guy got knocked out in the first round. But when you watch the tape, I don't know if it was just kind of an off night. I don't know. I wasn't really thoroughly that impressed. It was a decision win. I didn't think he looked that crazy good. People were talking him up to be some kind of insane finisher that's like, well, we need to watch out for this guy. I personally didn't really see that. So I don't think he really deserves the minus 800, and I won't be putting him in the parlays because I just think that's absurd. It's not adding any value, and in fact, it really might be putting us in danger, really, of losing the parlays. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm not going to go so far to say that I'm going to be going with Weston Wilson. I don't know if I would say that. So for the bets themselves, I think probably the only bet is you're going to have to do Silva by KO, because that even in itself is probably going to be at minus money. So, you know, that's probably going to be the only bet. I mean, I've said this before. I'm not doing, you know, two minus money bets. I'm only doing 1 minus money bet, and then that would be it. Or you do 2 plus money bets. You need to, you need to keep the value going there. So yeah. So I think that's really the only bet to make. Silva, KO. And again, we don't have odds, so I can't really get any idea of how that's going to be. But I'm just assuming, going based on experience here, that is definitely going to be minus money. Probably like minus 150, maybe even minus 200. I mean, if it's minus 800 and you're picking the most likely outcome, being a KO, you're probably not going to be getting good odds. But hey, that's what happens. And I have considered, I'm even actually considering it as I'm saying it, that at that point, maybe it is a decent idea to pick Weston Wilson as an underdog just for the sake of value. But I mean, on paper, horrifying matchup for him. And even when, like I said, even when I was watching it, I didn't think the skill difference was that crazy. But, you know, I'm just not seeing, you know, I don't really want to throw a unit away just on the, you know, maybe. I don't really want to do that. Did I wonder? Okay. I'm just now realizing that I don't know if I can actually see the chat on here or not. I'm just gonna fuck around with the settings here. Refresh chat. Sign in to chat, possibly? Ooh. Wonder if I can do that. This is so strange, because I haven't been on Streamlabs for 1.5 years, so this is unusual. Oh, I see, okay. So that's just a button to let me chat. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Again, first stream. First stream back anyway. So yeah, I mean, you gotta go with Gene Silva, but you know, I'm not going to be throwing him in the parlays. There's just no reason to do that. Moving on from there, it's one of the Basharat brothers, the rock-solid Basharat brothers, against Taylor Lapillus. I don't think that's even how it's pronounced, even though he's French. Taylor Lapillus. That's it. Just sounds better. I don't even really think this is close. I'm actually a little shocked that this one isn't a little bit farther apart in terms of the odds. I mean, Basharat, just like his brother, actually, I think he's undefeated still. I'm pretty sure the other Basharat is as well, yeah. Javid. But anyway, completely undefeated. Won all of his amateur fights, won all the pro fights. And how many decisions are there here? 1, 2, 4. Okay. 4 decisions in 11 fights. I mean, he's definitely, you know, I think we got the kind of the wrong impression when we saw him on the Contender Series and then Damone Blackshear. Because the Blackshear one, I mean, Basharat is also kind of a grappler. So it was kind of grappler. Blackshear, I think, is very well-rounded, and so is Basharat. So, you know, that being a decision, cool. Bagoso, I don't really remember the Contender Series fight, to be honest. And then beats Clayson Rodriguez in the first round. Did not see that one coming. I mean, I saw the win coming for sure, obviously, because I've bet on the Basharat brothers every single time and cashed in every single time. And hopefully we will continue to do that. But yeah, didn't see the finish coming anyway. And that just speaks to really how good these brothers are, both of them. On the other side, actually, by the way, I think these are actually the only 2 brothers left that are still both consistently doing well, because now it's also the Bonfim brothers are also falling apart. We've seen it over and over again. Brothers do not do well. They do not do well in the UFC. Kosi brothers, both, I think they're both out now. Not good. I'm trying to think of other brothers that have been around at the same time in the UFC. Oh yeah, Dawkins. I mean, fucking hell. We thought both of them were going to be insanely good, and then what happens? You know, Chris Dawkins ends up losing multiple times, then goes down to light heavyweight, loses there too. And then you got Kyle Dawkins, who's not even in the UFC anymore because he lost so much. So, I mean, the brothers not doing well, but the Basharat brothers, that's where it's at. On the other side, before I make my pick there, because you can probably already tell where I'm going with this. Before I say what I'm going to say, on the other side, Lapalus, he looked good in his debut, I guess. That was against Kalen Loughran in Paris. One of the craziest, I watched it back yesterday, one of the craziest crowds I've ever seen for a fight against two people making their debut. I mean, can you believe that it was that loud and that insane of a crowd? I mean, that was one of the craziest crowd reactions I've ever heard, is them singing in the middle of the fight. I think they sang 2 songs in the middle of the fight. And again, these guys are new and they're doing, I mean, it was incredible to watch. Definitely go back and watch that. Well, I mean, the fight was, actually, it was a decent fight too. But anyway, what was I going to say here? Oh yeah, Lapalus. So that was his first fight. Definitely does not have a crowd behind him this time, for sure. And that was even a close fight. And it was close because of the grappling of Kalen Loughran. He did not really handle the grappling well. And what does Farid Basharat do better than maybe one of the best people in the division, really? I was going to say better than anybody else. I mean, I can't say that when Merab is in the same division. You can't go around saying dumb shit like that. I mean, Merab is obviously the best. But Basharat, I mean, obviously, he really should be in the top 10. I mean, that's how good he is, clearly. So, you know, going against Lapalus not very good at the grappling part. I mean, he was good in that there was no way he was going to get finished, I don't think, by Kalen Loughran, but couldn't really stay on his feet. I was a little surprised even that he won. I think maybe that was a little bit more to do with the crowd. And I mean, Loughran didn't necessarily do any damage when he was on top of him, but he was holding him there pretty well. And Basharat, that's what he does. He takes people down, he holds them there, goes for subs, a little bit of ground and pound, but mostly subs and the wrestling part of it, holding him there. So horrible matchup, I would say, for Taylor Lapalus. And that's exactly why, of course, I'm going with Basharat, but not even just that. That is going to be the sniper pick this week. That is Farid Basharat. Because, I mean, listen, again, I've bet on both of the Basharat brothers every single time they've fought. They are as rock solid gets, especially with, I'm not saying they're being spoon-fed, matchups here, but they are very clearly giving them somewhat favorable matchups on a regular basis. So this is another one of those situations. They're giving Farid a winnable fight. And somebody that goes well into his style. And listen, I mean, even if Lapalus can somehow nullify that grappling a little bit, the striking of Farid is nothing to sniff at either. I mean, I would say he's even still a better striker than Lapalus as well. So just all around, I think it's Farid's fight to lose, honestly. So I'm going all in on Basharat, of course. And I got him yesterday, minus 275. I have no doubt that will be skyrocketing out of control. So definitely get those bets in early. And that is for 6 units. So minus 275. 6 units. We're going all in on Basharat, of course. So that is the A pick, the sniper pick. So he will, of course, be in the parlays as well. I need to actually really pay attention to that coughing now that I've actually fixed the levels on the mic. Oh, that's interesting. I can now see that oh, it is. Yeah. I think I can hear. Wait, can I hear it? Because I did it yesterday so that you can't hear the ambient noise. Oh, there's a lot of ambient noise. What the fuck? Did it turn it off? No. Huh. Well, you can really hear the ambient noise today. That's not good. Should I hold it instead? Oh, wow. Okay, it's way better now that I'm holding it. That's interesting. I guess because now the fan's really on. Okay. Well, that's irritating. I wonder... Okay, hold on. See, we're experimenting today. What happens if I hold on to it here? Testing. Oh, okay. That's way better. So it turns out I had the right idea before. It is better. It is better to hold it because it's making so much noise with the table. So yeah, I'll just keep holding it here, I guess, and then I'll fix that for next time. Now I can actually hear myself through the... Fuck. Anyway, this is why I don't wear the headphones. I don't like hearing myself. Anyway, enough about behind the scenes stuff. As for the bets, he's never been... Lapless never been finished before. So I'm a little hesitant to pick Basharat to get a finish because of that, even though he has had a lot of finishes in the past. Lapless did have good submission defense, but the takedown defense really was not that great. So, you know, there's a huge part of me that definitely wants to go for the under 2.5 and then, or go for the finish. But yeah, I think the way to play it would be Basharat decision and under 2.5. But again, that's really one of those scenarios, as always, where it's like, we gotta kind of just wait to see what the odds are like. But that'll probably be what it ends up being, is Basharat decision, and then balancing that out with the under 2.5, just in case he does get that finish going. Because he can definitely get that submission finish for sure. Knockout, probably not. But sub, I mean, the fact that he submitted Clayson Rodriguez, that to me shows you, like, okay, this guy can pretty much submit anybody, because, like, that's the real deal. Like, Clayson is he is no joke. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that. That's the sniper pick. We will move on from there. And that goes up to, I believe it's Marcus McGee. Let's see. Yes, Marcus McGee, Gaston Bolaños on the other side. And this is actually the first one on the card where I've been really back and forth on this one, because the first time I saw McGee, really was not impressed. Like, I mean, going into the first fight, the result of the first fight, very, very impressed. I loved that. That was crazy. That's where he got the knockout over, what did he do here? Let me see. Oh, submission. Almost knocked him out. Submitted him in the end, though. Journey Newson then comes back in. I mean, brutal knockout over JP Bays there, which I saw coming. I even said that right away. I was like, first round KO for sure. So that happened, obviously. And then, yeah, but he's not going against the best people, though, that's the problem. Journey Newson, not really the most impressive guy. I'd never really been impressed by him. Didn't look great in that. McGee looked pretty good, but again, that was also his debut, which actually says a lot about him, considering that was his debut and he looked that good. But still, I don't know. I'm not sure. And then Bays, I mean, you just throw that out the window. That means nothing. Then Gaston Bolaños, I mean, wasn't super impressed by him either, though, but he did get the win, beat Aaron Phillips. I mean, that wasn't really super impressive. So we kind of got two people that we don't really know how good either one of them is, honestly. Like, I mean, really, if you've been watching both, if you've seen their fights, you don't really know what to make of it, honestly. I mean, and yeah, sure, he's got a lot of power on the one side, but Bolaños never been knocked out. So, and I mean, he wasn't really getting, from what I remember anyway, I mean, he wasn't really getting hit a lot in that Phillips fight either. So can McGee get the knockout? And if McGee doesn't get the knockout, can he even win this fight? Because he wasn't, I don't know, Bolaños just seems like the kind of guy that would win this by decision. So, kind of all over the place in this matchup, really. Ultimately, when you have that, and this actually plays more into what I'm going to be doing with the bets in the future. which is I'm going to be doing something called the edge, where I'm just going to give somebody an edge. And if I can't give them an edge in the fight, so like, you know, in the last couple ones, it would be, you know, obviously Basharat would be given the edge. Same with Nolan, same with Van. Probably with Silva too, if I'm being real. If I can't give somebody an edge, I have to go with the underdog, because if neither one of them has any kind of real significant edge over the other, the smart bet is always to do the underdog. So you kind of have to go with that in this case too. I mean, I do think McGee probably should win this. I really do think that, but I haven't seen enough of either guy to really give an edge to either side. So I've got to go with Bolaños on this, just because I can't really give it to either one confidently. So you got to go with the underdog. And then to balance that out, I mean, I'm assuming that the odds are going to be going with the under 2.5, just because of what Marcus McGee has done. That usually is what the direction that they go in. So I'm assuming that's going to be the under. So I would probably then go with the over 2.5, which I don't think is crazy, because like I said, Bolaños never been knocked out. I don't think Bolaños would be able to finish Marcus McGee either. So I think the over makes a lot of sense in there. And like I said, I'm assuming that's probably going to be at plus money. I obviously don't know for sure until we have these odds out, but that would be my guess. Moving on. This was a really tough one, and I've been back and forth on it. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, even my Tapology pick here has gone back and forth on this one. Well, actually, no, the Tapology pick hasn't gone back and forth, but the bet has gone back and forth. It's Semi the Jedi, Matthew Semmelsberger, and who is he going against? Preston Parsons on the other side. Presto, it's Preston Parsons. Two very difficult guys to get a read on, really, because I mean, the power of Semmelsberger is unreal. Like the knockouts that he gets, the knockdowns that he gets, really knockdowns more than anything, which I think is shocking that he's gotten. I think when I was watching, I think he's knocked down all three. Is it all three? I only watched Uroš Medic and Jeremiah Wells, but he got 2 or 3 knockdowns in both of those fights, and yet he lost both of those fights, which is crazy. I mean, he really should have won that Medic one too, but I'm actually even watching it back, that Wells one is kind of garbage. I mean, Wells ends up winning by split decision. I think he ended up getting 4 or 5 knockdowns in that fight. I don't really know how you could ever score a fight against somebody if they've gotten 4 or 5 knockdowns. I think that's kind of bizarre, to say the least. So that was a bit ridiculous. And Wells is pretty good. I mean, he's probably better than Preston Parsons. That's why I've kind of been like, and on the other side, Preston Parsons has been hit quite a bit. He does get hit quite a lot, and he has been knocked out in the first round twice. Knocked out. Oh, actually, I didn't really even notice that. Knocked out by Mike Perry all the way back in 2015 on House of Fame. House of Fame with Mike Perry. So knocked out by Mike Perry in the first round. Knocked out by D-Rod. That was in his debut. And also in the first round. Semmelsberger very clearly has that knockout power. So it's plausible, but I gotta say, style-wise, this is not good for Semmelsberger. Not good, actually. Because he really has struggled with the grappling. And like I said, that is why he lost that Wells fight. Even though, I mean, I think most people would disagree, especially nowadays, like now in the current climate of judging, damage over everything. I think that would be a criminal scorecard now if you end up giving the fight to Wells. Back then it was a little more gray. Now I think that's ridiculous. But that was why he struggled with that grappling. And I mean, and Preston Parsons really, really has that grappling. So, I mean, if Preston Parsons doesn't get knocked out, I've got a pretty good feeling he's going to win that fight. Because, yeah, Semelsberger just has not really shown... I really need to maybe even just keep it farther away from myself, the mic here. What was I going to say? Yeah, oh yeah, he hasn't seemed to really improve that much in the grappling, and Preston Parsons' grappling is pretty good. I believe that's how he beat Evan Elder, and then, of course, split decision against Trevin Giles, lost that. I'm not going to lie, I think that was kind of another robbery right there. I kind of thought Preston Parsons won that one even. Yeah. So I think Preston Parsons has a decent chance, and honestly, he's kind of the only underdog on this entire card that I've really been kind of like, oh yeah, okay, he's got a pretty good chance at winning this. I mean, this card really is heavily leaned towards the favorites, just all over the card. I considered taking Walker as the top dog of the week, but I just can't. I don't know. I don't know if I can see him beating Ankalaev. We'll get into that later, of course. But that's all just to lead up to say that the top dog of the week, I think it has to be Parsons, because, like I said, there's really no other underdog on this entire card that I feel good about at all. And I don't even really feel good about Preston Parsons, really, but I gotta pick one of them, so I'll go with Preston Parsons. My neck is kind of bugging me now. Give it a little bit of a stretch here. Oh, man. All the stress, I'm getting tight now. It's kind of just the pose, I'm kind of still, maybe I've forgotten how to sit here too. The fuck? What do I do with my hands now? So for the bets, we don't know how the over-under is going to turn out. I would imagine they're going to be favoring the under, actually. So maybe I might have to switch that. I might even actually be doing under 1.5. We'll see how the odds go out, because I mean, if Semelsberger is going to win, it is more than likely going to be in the first round and a half. So under 1.5 would make a lot of sense to balance this out with. Because yeah, after that, I mean, I'm not saying his power disappears, because let's be real, like, he was getting knockdowns into the second and third round of the last couple of fights. So, you can't count out the power, but like I said, Parsons has a fantastic chin, despite the fact that he's been knocked out twice in the first round. That was more of an accumulation against D-Rod. That was kind of the ref, there was a lot of ground and pound. And then Mike Perry, who knows? And that was 8 years ago. So you can't even really take that into consideration. Yeah, so I think really the bets here, for sure, Preston Parsons, dog, and then balance that out with the probably under 1.5. I'm just going to write that in there, because that's more than likely what we're going to have to do. Yeah, and like I said, that is the top dog of the week, because I really don't like the looks of any of the other underdogs here. And I keep forgetting to go back to the odds here. We'll go back to the odds. Basharat minus 275 still, so that hasn't gone up yet. Marcus McGee. Oh yeah, Marcus McGee is minus 275. I think that's a bit shocking, but well, I guess if you look at the mat, I mean they're both of their records, I kind of understand, but still, minus 275, bit out of control. And again, that's why I'm going with Bolaños. There's no real benefit of going with McGee with this. And then the last one was, what did I just say? This man, Bet99. I'm not Bet99. Betway. They've got their fights in the wrong order here. It's very difficult. Oh yeah, Matthew Semelsberger, Preston Parsons. Semelsberger minus 138. So they're kind of on the fence as well. And again, I see why they're favoring Semelsberger, because I was too at first. and still kind of am on some level. But like I said, it's hard to bank on a knockout. That's kind of like the betting principle here, is it's like, it's not the best idea to just assume that somebody's going to get a knockout. And that's really his only way of winning this. So, you know, I don't really want to just completely bank on a first or second round knockout. Makes way more sense to just assume, okay, Parsons probably not going to get knocked out right away. He's probably going to use the grappling, and Semmelsberger is going to struggle with that. So that's the way I got to go with it. And that's why also we balance it out with the under 1.5. See, the system works. Moving on. Waldo Cortez Acosta and the legendary Andrei Arlovski. I said this before. I am not picking Andrei Arlovski ever again. I don't think that he can beat. I don't think he's capable of beating anybody in the UFC anymore, to be honest, that he hasn't already beaten. So yeah. Little surprised actually that they gave him another fight. Kind of thought that was going to be it. Honestly, after the last one, I mean, that was Don'Tale Mayes. Watch that, and I mean, Don'Tale Mayes isn't even good. Like, I've said so many. I mean, like, he's just not good, Don'Tale Mayes, and even he ended up beating Andrei Arlovski. And I'm not even saying that Andrei Arlovski is bad. He's not. He's just like he's just too old. I don't know any other way to say it. He's just you know, he's just too old. He's just past that point. You know, that I don't know any other way to say it. And I like him too. I picked him so many times, and I like him. You know, yeah. I feel bad for saying it, but I think last fight should have been the last fight. Because, I mean, if you're getting knocked out by Don'Tale Mayes, who I truly believe is bad, like one of the worst people on the roster for sure. So if you're losing to him, I mean, you should really, that should be it. And then on the other side, I mean, you got somebody who's on his way up and doing pretty well, frustratingly well, to be honest, because I didn't really think he was that good at first. Still don't think he's that great, but I mean, you know, when you've got, what is it now, three UFC wins, I mean, he beat Jared Vanderaa, Chase Sherman by decision, whatever. Then he lost to Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who's actually pretty good too, so I give him that. That's okay. And I predicted that one too, of course. And then he got a first-round knockout over Lukasz Brzeski in the last one. And I mean, you know, is that also the greatest competition? Maybe not. But I mean, the way that he did it, I mean, the striking of Waldo is pretty ridiculous. Very, very fast and a lot of power. Baseball player formerly. So he's got that fastball. I mean, it's definitely something to watch. And I mean, that is literally to a T what Andrei Arlovski has been struggling with, is the speed of the younger people. And the power too, of course, because the chin gets worse over time, speed gets worse over time. And now what is he doing? He's going against a boxer / baseball player, you know, who's very fast and very much a puncher. So this is a horrible matchup for Andrei Arlovski, which is why I am obviously going to be going with Waldo. And I will also definitely be going with him in the parlays and with a KO. So that is the bet. Waldo KO on the one side and over 1.5 on the other, because I mean, Andrei Arlovski, lots and lots of decisions. Doesn't regularly get knocked out, but I'm just saying, you know, it hasn't looked good recently. So I do see a knockout coming. But yeah, like I said, and Waldo has multiple decisions as well. Like I said, Vanderaa, decision. What was the other one? Sherman, decision. And then de Lima, a decision. He did lose it, but it was still a decision. So, you know, they're both in a lot of decisions. I could very much see that happening. But I have a feeling that the under 1.5 is going to be heavily favored just because of what I just said about the style of Waldo. And then you pair that up with, I'm definitely like, I need to sit up a little bit higher. I think it's because I need to be on screen. Like if I sit up normally like this, I'm not on, like my head's cut off, but me going like this is starting to really fuck with my neck. And I already have neck issues. Oh. Okay, hold on. Oh, there we go. Got to get the neck back in place there. And I'm also, like this most of the time looking at the laptop. Anyway, my goodness. Moving on from that, from my neck. Oh yeah, so Waldo KO over 1.5, possibly over 2.5. That depends on how the odds shake out. But again, that's what I'm expecting the odds makers to do, is go the under 1.5. And I don't blame them, because that's my pick actually, as round 1 KO for Waldo. But we'll see. We'll see how that ends up, how that turns out. Definitely bugs me, because I literally, oh yeah, that's definitely loud. I can see the levels on here because I'm on Streamlabs now, so I can see all the levels of everything. Yeah, because I made sure, I was like, oh, I don't want to hear, keyboards, and I don't want to hear fans and the computer itself. I don't want to hear all that shit. You just want to hear me, and that's it. If you wanted to hear me anyway. But yeah, it seems like, because I forgot about the fact that this computer would get way hotter and much louder when I'm streaming. I did not think about that part of that. So I'm going to have to fix that for sure. I could even probably try and fix it at the end of this, maybe. a little outro at the end, just me fixing the sound. Could do that. We'll see. Anyway, that remains to be seen. And maybe if our buddy Ray shows up, he can help us out with the sound there. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So moving on. I believe we are on the main card now. Yes, we are on the main card. Phil Haas, Bruno Ferreira. I'm not going to lie. This is actually another one that I was a little bit on the fence on, just by on paper and even kind of watching the tape here. Even though the odds, I believe, are heavily favoring Bruno Ferreira. Oh yeah, I didn't even say the odds again. What am I doing? Andrei Arlovsky, plus 400. Waldo Cortez Acosta, minus 700. So you can see what I mean by, like, we need to really bring these odds down. I might even have to go like Waldo round 1 or something like that. I might have to get creative with something just to get the odds down quite a bit, because they're obviously going to be going Waldo KO is still minus money. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of odds we get there. And this is exactly why I'm switching away from these kind of picks just on this show, because it's like, it's like I can't even really tell you which bets to make because I don't even have the odds yet. So how am I supposed to give you the bets if I don't know the odds? I can't, So it makes more sense to then just give the edge to somebody. Give the edge to somebody in the matchup, and then do with that. Use those to make your bets. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's my thought process behind it. And I'll still give, the like, okay, I think this is probably going to go longer. I think this is going to go, stuff like that. But yeah. We'll see. I'm just going to get creative from now on, Anyway, so Haas, Ferreira? Probably Ferreira because it's 2 R's. The consensus right now would be that most people are going to pick Bruno Ferreira first round KO. That's kind of what I went with too. But I got to admit, like, it is a bit dicey. It's a bit dicey. Only because he really doesn't have the greatest striking defense, and we saw him get knocked out. I mean, by an absolute animal who I told you was going to be the real deal, Nursultan Ruziboyev, who I cannot wait to see Ruziboyev again. By the way, he was supposed to fight Kyle Bohalio. Kyle Bohalio and Nursultan Rozaboyev. Could you imagine? That was supposed to happen. I didn't even know that until I checked out his page yesterday, Rozaboyev's page, because I was like, man, when's this guy fighting again? Found out he was actually slated to fight Kyle Bohalio. Fight ended up being canceled. But yeah, my God, that would have been outrageous. That would have been a crazy, crazy fight. But anyway, we didn't see that. So yeah, knocked out by him. But before that, though, I mean, he was 10-0. Pretty much all, was it all first round? No, almost all first round knockouts. There was one second round, or 2 second round ones thrown in there. One over Gregory Rodriguez. That was one of those first round knockouts. Insane. Did not see that one coming. That was in Brazil. Crazy result there. Just flattened Gregory Rodriguez out of nowhere after I thought Rodriguez was winning. And that is why I was a little bit on the fence, because he's not really the most technical kind of guy. He's kind of one of those guys that's like, he's got to get in close and then land a bomb, and that's how he's going to win every single time. He's going to get a knockout out of nowhere every single time. That's just how he wins. Can he do that against Haas? Yes. That's ultimately why I've kind of settled on him. But I mean, Haas isn't as bad as people are kind of making him out to be. And maybe not as bad as his record is suggesting, let's say. Because, I mean, really, the losses aren't that bad. I mean, let's go through them. Ikram Aliskerov, first round knockout loss. Okay, it's Ikram Aliskerov. Like, he's pretty fucking good. Pretty fucking outrageously good. Roman Dolidze, first round knockout loss. Okay, it's Roman Dolidze. Like, again, fair enough. I've never been a huge fan of Roman Dolidze. I don't think he's like top 10, even really, maybe even top 15. I think he's kind of just been getting the right kind of matchups here and there to get those numbers, but don't really think he's that good. But still, again, that's a, top 15. Okay. Before that, beat Darren Wynn in the second round. Wild fight, insane fight. Knockout win there. Then before that, lost to Chris Curtis. Like, okay, Chris Curtis is really good too. So, and then before that, he was on a 6-7 fight win streak. So, it's like, I don't really know how you can fault him too much, except for the fact that he got knocked out 3 times in the first round. But again, who was that against? Aliskerov, Dolidze, Chris Curtis. So, on paper, it's really not that insane, but then, I think when you get knocked out 3 times in the first round, though, I think that just kind of trumps everything, where you're kind of like, you got to go with Bruno Ferreira by KO. I don't know how you can make any other bet when he's got so many first round knockouts and Haas has been knocked out 3 times in the first round. So I think you'd be pretty stupid not to make that bet. I think that's the obvious pick to go with. So that is what I will go with. But I guess really all I'm trying to say is he's definitely not going to be in the parlays, just because I don't really trust him yet, because I don't see that technical ability. And on the other side, and that's actually also the huge part of it, is I do see that technical ability on the side of Haas, which is maddening, because I feel like he should be so good, and I've seen him do really amazing things. I actually kind of like him too. And you think, I mean, you see the skill, you see the talent that Phil Haas has, and then he just keeps losing. It sucks to see. Can't really pick him either, is because if you've got all that skill and then you still lose, there's something disconnecting there that's just not going together. And after that many times, I don't know if it ever will come together. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my reasoning there as to how I ended up settling on maybe the obvious bet anyway, which is Ferreira KO. But like I said, because of all that, though, he's not going to be in the parlays. That was, I guess, what the whole diatribe was about there. Fajeda KO, that's the bet. On the other side, over 1.5, because we have seen, like I said, I guess actually it comes down to that technical ability, because if Fajeda can't land that knockout and maybe Phil Haas gets in there with some grappling or something, we could easily see that go over 1.5. But I'm not going to lie, if I see round 1 is at plus money, I will probably take round 1. I might do that. I might do under 1.5. We'll see. Again, really depends what the odds are going for. We don't know. I just picked it because I was assuming, like, okay, we got to balance out these odds somehow. I'm actually getting kind of hungry now. So yeah, that's the bet there. But like I said, going into the future though, Fajeda is kind of one of those guys that I know is going to fuck over a lot of people with their bets, and I refuse to be fucked over by somebody just because of hype and knockout power. Like, nah. I want to see real technical skill, especially the defense, because he really does not have the defense. That worries me against Haas, because he's been working very hard in Thailand on the kickboxing, so that worries me. Anyway, moving on to a very exciting fight, Ricky Simón and Mario Bautista. And this is actually another one. I wouldn't say I went back and forth on it, because I got to go with my man Ricky Simón. I've picked him, one too many times, because one of the dumbest picks I ever made was actually his last fight against Song Yadong. I don't know why I thought Ricky Simón was going to win that. Because even as I was saying it, I even actually said it the week after. I was like, I don't know why I picked him, because there was a huge part of me that was saying, I don't know. I don't think he's going to win this, actually. I think Song Yadong is probably more well-rounded and better, and the striking is pretty outrageous. But I didn't listen to myself, and I went with Ricky Simón. But in this case, I got to go with Ricky Simón because, it was also 5 rounds, so that didn't help him out either. This is 3 rounds, though. Back in the 3 rounds for Ricky Simón. And the style. It's mostly the style with Mario Bautista. I mean, Bautista, he's got some pretty good submission skills, but Simón is one of the best submission guys in the division. So he's not going to submit Ricky Simón. I know that. And outside of that, I don't really think he has a whole lot to threaten Ricky Simón with, because his striking isn't, I mean, it's good. He's got good striking, but is it on the level that's going to be, like, is it on that Song Yadong level? No, it's just really not. It's not. So, that what does that really leave? Because he definitely doesn't have the wrestling, and that's the problem, is he kept getting taken down by Blackshear. And in fact, I kind of thought Blackshear was actually winning the fight for the most part. I can't say it was a robbery or anything. I think it was pretty close, and I think I actually did end up giving it to Bautista. But it was close enough that it was like, oh, well, like, this is a real question. It really could go either way here. And it was all because of the wrestling. Blackshear kept taking him down, laying on top of him, and controlling him there. And Ricky Simón does that. Again, I can't say better than anybody else, because when you're in the same division as Merab, you can't say that. But is he a solid 3rd, 4th best wrestler? Maybe even 2nd? Sure. For sure. I mean, he's incredible. And he uses that size too as well with the wrestling. And Mario Bautista actually also doesn't really have that size. He kind of, I mean, I'm not going to say he's a flyweight, but he kind of does look a little bit more like a flyweight. Whereas Ricky Simón, he's big. He is pretty big. So that is a true bantamweight that uses his size. So I don't know, the grappling of Ricky Simón, pair that with his size, the style. I'm going with Simón pretty hard on, I mean, not pretty hard, because I think I actually took him out. Yeah, I ended up taking him out of the parlays just because Mario Bautista has been doing so well that it kind of freaks me out to then put him on the parlays, especially with so many favorites on this card looking that good. I didn't want to put him on there. But I am definitely favoring Ricky Simón. I'm giving him the edge on this one for sure. Yeah, and I do see this going longer. I mean, Bautista, very good submission defense, because Blackshear has insane submission offense. I mean, we saw him get a twister, for fuck's sake. And he almost got a twister on Basharat there for a second. Basharat was stuck in a twister for a little bit. And that speaks to how good Basharat is to get out of that and end up easily winning that fight. But yeah, I mean, Bautista defended those well. Ricky Simón, again, might have some of the best submissions in the division. So he could definitely get it done, but I am favoring the long one here. I'm favoring more so the decision. And especially since, like I said, well, actually, I didn't say this, but it kind of was going with what I said. It's hard to keep these guys down. They're smaller. They get up a lot faster. So a lot more of the time is spent holding on to them, trying to keep them down. And I'm not saying he's going to hold them and just do nothing, but that is where a lot of the time is spent. It's a lot more effort holding the person down and then occasionally looking for a submission when you can find it. But it's a lot more holding down. And I think Ricky Simón will do that fairly well. So that's the pick. Ricky Simón by decision, balancing that out with the under 2.5. Because let's be real, Mario Bautista, maybe he can get it done too. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. I mean by finish. Decision, maybe. And that's more so to do with the striking. Yeah. Oh yeah, the odds. That's what I was looking at. Minus 175 for Ricky Simón. Bautista plus 140. I considered doing this for Top Dog, but it's like I just think Ricky Simón is so good and the style works so well in his favor that I couldn't do it. And which is what I'm saying about this whole card, is it's like there's really not a lot of underdogs on here. I mean, there's really only 2 that I've even considered, and it's the ones I already said. There aren't any more underdogs that I'm taking for the rest of the card because it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Actually, well, Nicolau is an exception. I did think about that. I should really use the cough button. Whatever. I'm still getting used to this, still bad being back. Yeah, so that's the bet. Ricky Simón, decision, and I'll balance that out with the under 2.5. Next up, it's Jim Miller. I mean, listen, if they don't put this guy on UFC 300, something is wrong. Like, you have to put, how do you not put Jim Miller on UFC 300? He's literally been asking for it, and it would be fucking iconic, because then 100, UFC 100, UFC 200, UFC 300, you have to do it. He has to be on UFC 300. I don't even know why this is a conversation people are having, like, do we put him on here or not? Yes, you put Jim Miller on UFC 300. I don't give a fuck if he loses this weekend or not. He's got to go on UFC 300. This has to happen. But anyway, that aside, I'm very much picking Jim Miller this week. And I'm actually a little surprised that the odds were as close as they were. I mean, Jim Miller got a 23-second knockout. A 23-second knockout in his last fight. Really, I actually was thinking he was beating Alexander Hernandez in that fight. So that was a pretty good fight. I thought he was winning that one. I thought he was going to win that one. Beat Cowboy, Donald Cerrone. Knocked out Nicolas Mota before that. And knocked out Eric Gonzalez before that. And what is... And in comparison, what has Gabriel Benitez done? He's done shit all, because he hasn't fought since 2022. And he beat Charlie Ontiveros there. Who gives a fuck? He's not really good. I mean, clearly, because he has not... I think he left the UFC after that, because he just was not doing well. And then, before that, knocked out by David Onama in the first round. Knocked out by Billy Quarantillo before that. Got a knockout win before that against Justin James. Okay. And then lost to Omar Morales. Lost to Sadiq Youssef. Knocked out. So, I mean, he's got 2 wins in the last 4 years. Hasn't fought in a year and a half. By the way, do I even need to mention the fact that he was fighting at featherweight for most of that? Jim Miller fought at welterweight against Cowboy. Like, this is a 155er going against a 145er who hasn't fought in a while, who has been knocked out multiple times in the first round. I don't really know why this is even close in the odds, but it is, and we're going to take advantage of that. Jim Miller for sure. I'm going Jim Miller finish. I'm actually probably even, well, I don't know if I want to change that to Jim Miller KO, but probably. Because he does have some submissions in there too. Has Benitez been submitted before? Not really. He's been knocked out quite a few times though. So I'll probably go Jim Miller KO. That's what I'll settle on. I'll switch that. I remembered to mute this time. So yeah, Jim Miller KO. And on the other side, to balance it out, probably decision. Well, that wouldn't really make much sense though. I can't see this going the distance. That's questionable. That is questionable. I wonder if they have the odds up for that because it's higher in the card. We'll see. But yeah, we'll go with the odds in general. I mean, Miller, minus 125. Like, that's crazy. I mean, jump on that if you're watching now. I mean, jump on that. Holy shit. Minus 125. Unreal. Unreal odds for that. They do not have the odds for over-unders yet. Yikes. Man, these betting sites really take a chillax approach. You'd think they'd want people to make bets. Fucking hell. And they know it's you had weeks to do this. None of the fights have really changed that much. You had weeks to make these bets. I don't understand these betting sites, honestly. And they make a lot of money. They could make a lot more money if they put these up faster. Anyway. What was I saying? Yeah, Miller KO. I'll change it to under 1.5 just because it's Jim fucking Miller. That's why. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to play out. Like, what they want is they want Jim Miller to get a nice KO, a nice win, and then everybody's excited. Like, yeah, Jim Miller, he did it again. Let's see him on UFC 300. That's obviously what they're doing. They're trying to hype him up so that they can get him, and then, a half-decent retirement fight for UFC 300. Because we know that that's his entire goal. Retire on UFC 300. That is the goal. Let him do it. For fuck's sake. Get him the fucking fight on UFC 300. Let's go. For real. I mean, this is ridiculous. Please make it happen. So yeah, that is obviously, I would say, clearly what they're trying to do. They're saying, hey, Jim, you win here. You can have your fight at UFC 300 and you can call it a career and everybody can be happy. If he loses here, fuck, I don't know what they're going to do. But either way, I think he should be a clear favorite. I'm surprised that it's even that close. And yeah, moving on. It's Nicolau and Kopp, number 2. Yeah. Nicolau, I mean, yeah, first off, I should say what happened in their first fight. It ended up being a split decision, so it was obviously pretty close, but really, the problem was that was when Kopp was being very conservative in his offense. This was a huge problem. I think it was 3 or 4 fights in a row he did this. Finally, it seems like he started to kind of go away from that, be more aggressive and get things done. But he was having a real issue with being active. He wasn't throwing he just wasn't throwing offense. When he was throwing offense, he was doing really well. He was getting knockouts and everything like that. But then he started to lose decisions because he wasn't being active enough. Like, that's a stupid reason to lose. Like, he was very clearly winning the fights when he was moving forward, doing any kind of offense. But what he would do then is he just wouldn't throw anything and he would let the other guy do it just so he could counter them. And that was it. He wasn't throwing any offense himself. And that led to him losing a couple. And one of those losses was against Nicolau. Yeah. And when he was moving forward, when Kopp was moving forward, he got a couple of knockdowns on Nicolau. He did really well. Maybe not a couple, but I think he got at least one knockdown in that fight. And he was doing really well. He was clearly winning the fight. And it was also the grappling of Nicolau was a little bit more of a problem. But he is much, much better. Well, I don't know if I would... Yeah, actually, I know. Felipe Dos Santos kind of tested the grappling there a little bit. Definitely did improve the grappling a little bit. The submission game on the ground is pretty remarkable, actually, for Manel Kopp. But yeah, it's really just the striking. I mean, and that's really more so a problem for Nicolau than anything else. This is definitely striker versus grappler. That's what I really should be saying. If that's clearly what it is. I mean, Nicolau, not the greatest striker. Amazing grappler, though. And on the other side, Kopp, not really much of a grappler, but insane striking. Like, some of the best striking I've ever seen from Manel Kopp, for sure. No doubt. No doubt about it. He is one of the best strikers I've ever seen. So, yeah, not a great combination. And I think really, like I said, it was more so the fact he really only lost that first fight against Nicolau because he wasn't being active. He wasn't pressuring forward. And I think this new Manel Kopp, this aggressive, in-your-face, talking shit Manel Kopp, I don't think he's going to be like that anymore. I think he really is. He's changed a lot to be a more aggressive fighter here. So I think that's what's going to happen now. He's finally going to... He's going to be aggressive and he's going to get the knockout because we saw what happens now. We saw what happens when Nicolau gets in a firefight. He got knocked out. He got knocked out by Brandon Royval in a little over 2 minutes. He does move a lot, though. So I think what you kind of have to do on this one is... well, let me see the odds first. Manel Kopp, where are we here? Manel Kopp minus 275, which is shocking, actually, in the grand scheme of things, because normally when there's a rematch, the odds favor the person that won the first time. And this is like way in the other direction. Way, way in the other direction where they are heavily favoring Manel Kopp, which kind of makes me want to pick Nicolau because he did win the first time. But I completely see what they're saying here is Nicolau he's probably going to get knocked out here. And I kind of feel that too. Again, I mean, it's not a... He did just get knocked out too, so this is his first fight back, and now you're going against an even better striker. You know, that's not great, because Brandon Royval is a decent striker, but Manel Kopp is an unbelievable striker. He is magical. He is a magical striker. I mean, it is crazy to watch. So, you know, I mean, if he gets hit like that, I mean, by Kopp again, that's not going to turn out well. But that movement did have did give Kopp some problems the first time. That's why I'm kind of going with the over 2.5. So I think really the play here would be Kopp, KO, and over 2.5. That's how you got to balance it out, because they're probably going to go with the under 2.5. So we'll go with the over. And if they go over, we'll go under. We'll just do the opposite of whatever the odds say, because it really could go either way on this. And then, of course, you would do the same thing with Kopp. You would go Kopp decision, under 2.5. Or you would do what I just said, Kopp KO, over 2.5. Depends on what the odds are. Again, if we don't know the odds, we can't really definitively make these bets here. Do they have the odds? No, they do not. I checked. I bet they have the main event, though. Seriously, really, they don't have the main event. Wow. That's shocking. That's terrible. What are these betting sites doing? It's Wednesday. Fucking hell. Like I said, they had 3 weeks to do this. Didn't do shit. Anyway. So yeah, I'm going with Kopp on this one. And finally, the final matchup of the night, the main event, the one that we've all been waiting for months now, because I mean, what the fuck? That first one. I mean, I don't know if I really need to go through this, but Ankalaev, of course, and Walker, this is number 2. because of course they fought in Abu Dhabi, and then the whole nonsense with the doctor stopping the fight there. Garbage, absolute garbage. Watched it again last night. Still one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Truly one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. So finally we'll get to see what happens here. I watched it again, like I said. I think I'm a little bit more okay with Walker winning, like I said, because I did consider picking him as the top dog of the week. But I don't know how you get past Ankalaev. I really don't, because, I mean, if you go through how Walker could win, there's no way in hell, you can't convince me that he's going to win a decision. I'm sorry. Like, there's no way. There's no way Johnny Walker is going to win a 5-round, not even just a 3-round, a 5-round decision over Magomed Ankalaev. There's no way. I'm sorry. That's just not happening. Of course, I did say that against Strickland too, but even that made more sense than this. Like, there's no way. 5-round decision against Ankalaev. There's no way Walker's winning that. So already that takes him down a peg. And I mean, is he going to submit Magomed Ankalaev? I don't think so. I doubt it. So that takes away another way of winning. So really his only way is to knock him out. And I don't really see how that's going to happen either. I mean, has he even... I actually didn't even check that. Has Magomed Ankalaev been submitted? Let's see. I mean, been knocked out before. Let's see. No. He's only lost once, and it was by a triangle choke. And that was, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that was Paul Craig, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, is Johnny Walker going to be the guy? Is he going to be the guy that knocks out Magomed Ankalaev? I doubt that. I doubt that. So I kind of think you really have to go. You really got to go with Magomed Ankalaev here. And that's why I put him in the parlays too. Pains me to say it because Johnny Walker has actually become one of my favorite fighters. I used to hate Johnny Walker, for real. He was one of my least favorite fighters. But I mean, I hope I'm actually probably going to tweet this on Saturday, but what meme are we going to see from Johnny Walker this week? I mean, seriously, every single time this guy fights, there's just a handful of memes, which is rare. I mean, for anybody to have a handful of memes in any given week is extremely rare, but this guy does it literally every single time he fights. So I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. There's probably going to be some kind of memeable moment out of it. Let's hope he's on the right side of it, though. Because I really don't want to see him get knocked out like that Jamal Hill one again. Fucking hell, that was... Whew, that was something else. You know, where he felt like the... Whoa. That's still the funniest knockout of all time. There's no way... I've never seen a funnier knockout before than that. That was hilarious. I mean, still gives me the giggles. Even though, yes, he was brutally knocked out, and that's pretty bad, obviously. And again, I love Johnny Walker, but I mean, that's still the funniest knockout of all time. You can't go against that. But yeah, all that's to say that I really don't see how Johnny Walker wins this. If it was a 3-round fight, I'd actually even be like, okay, I could, which is why I said last time, actually, when they fought the first time, I even said, I was like, oh, Johnny Walker could actually get this, maybe. But that was because it's a 3-round fight. If it's a 5-round, I don't know. I've got a hard time believing Johnny Walker can win this. So I've really got to go with Magomed Ankalaev on this one. And because I don't think that he can even last 5 rounds, the bet has to be Ankalaev finish. And I'm not going to say KO or sub because he can do both, and Walker has been finished by both. So I've got to go with Ankalaev finish just in general on that. And then I'll balance it out with the over because, I mean, we've seen Ankalaev in 5-round fights. He keeps the pace pretty low. Maybe, I'm assuming Johnny Walker is probably going to adjust to it too and probably have a little bit of a lower pace as well. So over 2.5, I think, is probably what they're going to set it at. I would be very comfortable with betting over 3.5 as well, because again, it's like the alternative would be Ankalaev finish anyway. So that's why I'm saying it's like either way, I should be winning this. So yeah, I think that's really the way to go. Ankalaev finish, balance that out with over 2.5 or over 3.5, depending on what the odds are set at. But I've noticed I've got a pretty good eye for this now with the odds of what the odds makers are going to set this at. I've made some I'm usually pretty close with what they set everything at. So I think that's what they're going to set it at, over 2.5, and that'll be plus money probably. And that's it for the singles, and then we'll just go through quickly the parlays here. Oh, and we'll quickly go over, I guess, the other ones too. But I mean, the other one, I already said it. Basharat, just to recap, Basharat is for sure the sniper pick. Minus 275. That's what I got him at yesterday. That's for 6 units. So I mean, if if the Basharats continue their winning streak, we will get 2 units up on that. That's what we love to see. That's what I love. And then Preston Parsons for the top dog. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably the least confident I've ever been in an underdog in this. I'm usually way more confident about the underdogs going into this. I have no confidence in the underdogs this week at all, to be honest, because there's just really not a lot going on with any of them, except for like I said, Parsons has the best chance. That's why I'm giving it to him. And yeah, the parlays, because I made my picks already, I can actually give you the parlays. The triple play, which I've said before, is now B, C, and E in my picks. So B, C, and E, that ends up being Joshua Van, who's at B. C is Tom Nolan, and Jim Miller in E. So that gives us Jim Miller, Tom Nolan, Joshua Van. That is the triple play. And to be honest, I think that's a pretty solid parlay. I mean, the odds are going to be fantastic on it because Jim Miller is pretty low down on those odds. So, yeah, we're going to get some good odds from that. So hopefully that pans out. Hopefully Jim Miller brings it back for us. And again, huge confidence in Joshua Van. I mean, I have huge confidence in Tom Nolan too, but again, it's a debut, so that could really go south fast. You never know. I am also doing, should I do that? ACD? Yeah, probably. I've got my third parlay in there as well. The one that I never really talk about it, but I put it in there sometimes. That's Basharat, Nolan, and Waldo Cortez Acosta. That's ACD. Got that in there. And then the Grand Slam. The Grand Slam is ABDF, which in this case is Basharat, of course. Joshua Van, of course, because he's B, so we've got him in both. And D is Waldo Cortez Acosta and Ankalaev. So to recap, that is Basharat, Van, Ankalaev, Waldo Cortez Acosta. That is the Grand Slam. Yeah. And I know, actually, I was just going to say, I think we're going to get good odds. I know for a fact we're going to get good odds on this because, especially with that triple play, because Miller is almost even money. And most of the other ones are -2 something. So I think we can get some good prices in. Although I'm now realizing ABDF, the Grand Slam is probably going to be, actually, funny enough, I think the triple play might have better odds than the Grand Slam because of Jim Miller. Because Waldo Cortez Acosta, I think was like, what is it, -700 or something? And then the, Gene was -800 something. So yeah, Waldo I think was -700. So yeah, we might have better odds for the triple play. Who would have thought? But yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it for me. I don't have any outro anymore. I don't have anything made because I didn't have time. Because I mean, as you can tell, a lot of effort was spent into making this because I did make all of this from scratch. This was literally nothing before. I made the mountains in the back, the trees, the lights, these lights as well, the desk, the animated desk. I mean, nobody has a better desk than this guy right here. Best desk in the game. Incredible. And then, had to set up on Streamlabs because I'm not using StreamYard anymore. Lots and lots of work went into doing this to get this ready for today. As I said, I was still working on this last night, today, still working on it. So next week, I will have the bets up here next to me. I have a different screen actually that will be doing that. I'll be actually over here in a little hexagon over here, and then the bets will be the rest of the page. About there on will be all the bets. So you can finally see what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, that's what we can look forward to next week. And of course, that'll be good because it's the pay-per-view as well. So it'll be nice to get everything ready for a pay-per-view as well. Hopefully I'll have the intro video done as well, and hopefully the outro video. We'll see, because I still haven't quite nailed down because it's actually being done in Keynote, not PowerPoint, because I use a Mac. So I haven't quite done the templates for the bets yet. I'm almost done. It's like halfway done. That's the only reason I couldn't do it today. I figured out how to show it already. All that's good. All that's fantastic. I just needed to actually make the template for the bets, and that's what I didn't quite get to. So that's what we can look forward to next week. And like I said, hopefully an intro video, hopefully an outro video. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I lots of stuff to work on. Plus, also want to work on the blue bonuses, get those back. So I want to obviously make better probably animated versions of those as well, with some new looks, make it look even better, and get all that going as well. So I mean, that's another thing. I'm probably going to be working on the blue bonus maybe today and tomorrow and Friday, maybe even a bit Saturday, so that then I can hopefully have it ready for this week. If not, you'll see it next week, hopefully, with the bonuses. I'm not sure. But as I did mention before, though, last year, I will be keeping track of all of the bonuses this year. I will be doing the weekly bonuses for each event. I will be doing the monthly bonuses, and I will be doing the year-end bonuses, which I will be keeping a very close tab on, so I don't have to watch endless amounts of fights and everything at the end of the year. I can have like a top 5, top 6 already whittled down that I've been keeping track of the entire year, and then and then whittle it down right at the end there. And I will also be doing, by the way, I'm still considering doing it for PFL, but it really depends on the watchability of that, because I don't know if I'll be able to watch it here in Canada at all the fights, because it's not really fair if I just watch the main card, because that's usually what they've been showing. That's not really fair, because then I can't give anything to the prelims. That's kind of silly. So we'll see about that. But for sure I'm doing it for BFL, Battlefield Fight League. For sure I'm doing it for Unified. For sure I'm doing it for Power Slap. Sorry, haters. Don't give a fuck. Doing it for the Power Slap. And UFC, of course. Oh, and then Dana White's Contender Series, of course, and the Ultimate Fighter. So I will be doing bonuses for all of those throughout the year. And I think the first big event that I will be doing, I guess, or a big series of events, I guess, would be probably Power Slap, I guess. I mean, unless you're counting the weekly ones, which would be, there's the monthly January one is before, because Power Slap 6 is start of February, and that's also when Road to the Title for Power Slap ends. So I will be posting my bonuses for the Road to the Title for Power Slap Season 2. I will be doing bonuses for that. So yeah, all stuff to look forward to. And hopefully I'll be able to fix this audio so that it's not making a bunch of whirring noises for you guys. Wait, it wasn't that bad. I mean, let me hear it again. Let me hear if I just put this down. Oh, it actually stopped. Okay. Well, I could have put this mic down a while ago then. It actually stopped a little bit because it was a lot louder earlier for sure. Anyway, that is it for me. I don't have an outro or anything.